Welcome back to Real Repairs for Real Customers, where we develop a lesson plan based on actual damages that you will find in the field in your day-to-day work. Now, we'd like to conclude our ongoing saga about door panel repairs by addressing something that I left you hanging with the last time, and that was this Suburban door panel. We weren't able to fix this with heat. And as one commenter on that video mentioned, that they actually reupholstered the top of the door, and that's the correct answer. But we want to get to the real root of the problem. We want to find the underlying cause as to why this can't be repaired. So let's take it apart and find out. To remove the door panel, there are only 4 screws. One is typically right behind this opening lever. If you pull off the little protective panel, there it is. I believe that's a 7mm socket that you'll need there. There are 2 screws located down in the door pull. So I pried the protective cap off of there, and I find one of the screws is already twisted off, probably on installation of the door panel. So we only have one to remove. The other screw is at the very bottom of the door panel, about halfway along. You'll have to get down pretty low to see it. Other than that, it's just your typical upholstery clips, a couple of wire disconnects, and your linkage for the door pull. That's it. The red arrows indicate where the push pins did not come off with the door panel, so you'll have to retrieve them off of the door and install them here. The green arrows show the clips that came off with the door panel and that also hold that weather stripping, but these need to be removed from the door panel and installed on the door, as we'll see later. And you'll notice one of the clips actually stayed with the door, the one on the right. This next picture highlights the location of the plastic spot welds that you will need to cut off in order to remove this top panel. And there you go. We can see that there are some staples holding the fabric on to this panel, but the real difficulty here is the tremendous glue that they've used. So that's why I'm speeding through this part, because not only are we removing the staples, but we're trying to get this loose, and that glue is really holding fast. And until we get enough material to get a really good grip on it, that's going to be a difficult endeavor. And so finally, we've reached our moment of the great reveal. And what is the root cause of our problem? The fabric is not free floating, but it has been glued down to the foam. And what about the foam? It's the type that when it's compressed, it doesn't rebound. It stays indented. So it just becomes a distorted mass. So I've decided to use a flap disc and just get all this foam off of the plastic. Now my stock of foam is limited, but I do carry 1/4 inch. That's as thin as I go, so that's what I'm using here. Nothing special here, just glue and trim. I have had to custom color some vinyl, and then I've traced a little bit wide from the original piece. Cutting a little wide because I need to remake that seam, and we have to have some seam allowance. Basically then, cutting this line and then just sewing it right back together. Then, trying to duplicate the look of the original, I'm putting all of the selvage underside to one side. As you can see, I keep checking to make sure it's all laid over to one side, and that's the side that this contrast stitching is going on. That's all I know about that. The big question for me is, how am I going to get that seam to lie down in the right place? So I've measured a 1/2 inch over from the edge of the plastic and marked a dotted line. Then I've made another mark in the center to help me locate this for the best possible alignment, making sure I have enough excess material to wrap the edge. So I'm putting the seam right on the dotted line. I have no idea if this is the right way to do it, but one of you upholsterers might have some suggestions in the comments. Also, I have only put adhesive right here on this seam line to hold that in place. Now we'll take a look a little later on and reevaluate that particular step and maybe come to a better conclusion. Now from here it's just a matter of wrapping the edges, gluing them down, stapling them where necessary. Originally, they didn't have staples everywhere, but I'm going to use the 1/4 inch leg stainless staples on this one, and that way I can staple around the entire edge this time, just for extra security. Now, I've looked everywhere for the video on me putting these screws back in, but I couldn't find it. So maybe the battery went out, but this is the very screw that I'm using, the same as on the BMW door panels. And if I need a washer, I have some extra washers, just in case the hole is a bit large. But we've shown all that before as well. Now, as we mentioned on reassembly, those clips that hold the weather stripping, they go onto the door in these little recesses. See how nicely they fit there. And then the weather stripping fits in place. See how it goes around this post here, snugged up nicely, and then slips down into these clips over the edge of the door. Then you can see the spring-loaded end of the clip sticks out to receive the door panel. So that's my first time in handling one of those, but it was very insightful. The one thing that I observed on finishing this and you might can detect that, is that my seam no longer parallels the edge of that plastic exactly. And so when I finished, I asked myself, is that the reason that they used the adhesive to adhere the entire piece of vinyl to the foam? I can see how that might help prevent our seam line from migrating one side or the other of its intended path. So next time I'll try adhesive over the whole panel. I hope you enjoyed discovering the root cause of our problem as much as I did on that. And it gives you an opportunity also to offer a repair when you couldn't repair it before. Thank you for watching, and we'll look for you next time.